What's up, and welcome to the Los Wise Guys podcast. I'm your host, Eslam, aka Rock God of the Sun, accompanied by Dan Papa Sun Killer and Dan Emperor Disco. How's it going, guys?
What's up, everybody?
Hey, Disco, remember that porno intro you told me about?
I was just gonna bring that up too. I found this porn that has like a
Oh, I
almost
did.
a similar entrance.
I
It
saw it. I
has like
saw it.
that like globe smoke thing.
Yeah.
He's seen
I
it. How did you see it?
no. Well, I meant I saw you guys
Oh,
talking
oh,
about
okay.
because I
Okay,
edited the
yeah,
episode and watched it while I was editing it,
yeah.
and yeah. So I didn't make this from scratch. I got it from a website,
hmm
and where you upload an image of your
It's
logo,
called
and it just
Pornhub.
yeah, it just adds it to that effect. So it's hilarious that someone else used it
No.
for their porn.
Maybe there's a
Hey, you should
collaboration
imagine. You
where
should imagine my surprise when I was getting ready to beat my schmeat, and the next, I got scared. I got
It's
scared
like
too,
that
just like
shit
our
has.
regular
so
one.
am I
Like,
being recorded? Am I alive?
It's like it. It's like that shit happens, and all of a sudden you're about to beat your meat. I come up on the screen, and be like, "What's up?" and welcome to another porn video by
Oh
by
man,
your girl. And it's just, oh, that would have been hilarious.
I'm saying
welcome to Islam's secret porn cast.
we got to do a collaboration where it's just like while that's happening, we're just like on the background on YouTube, just us doing a podcast in the middle
Yeah,
of a porno scene. Be perfect.
that would be
That would be
hilarious.
amazing. We probably do pretty good. That's gonna be our OnlyFans. Other
So, what
people,
kind of porn
do
was it?
do that stuff while we're just in the background talking our episode.
You know what I would want to do just because I love messing with people? It's like you do that and then you can't barely hear us, but as the video progresses, we just get louder and they get turned down lower. So it's like by the end of it, all you hear is only us talking about nonsense.
It's like, well, now that they're finished, let's get on to our main topic.
We just start rating their performance.
That's great.
Yeah,
Like,
there's just some random porn star. That's just like how her all her videos start. So it's like an
oh,
amateur porn star.
that's funny. Good shit.
Yep,
Good shit.
quality.
How many did you send me that link? I need to do some research.
Oh yeah,
I think I said the
I
same thing on the
got you.
podcast. I
Got
was like, honestly, it's like legit just curiosity at this point. I was just like, I
Yeah.
kind of
I
want to
just
see
need
how
to
they
see
do
the
it.
intro. Just clip
Yeah.
out her intro. I want to see it.
Yeah, I just want to see the
I
intro.
want to see her logo.
you. It's pretty much like ours, but instead of like LWG popping out, it's her stuff.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's funny. I got a quick
It's her
question for you,
left
real
tit.
quick, because we were talking about fasting before that we started.
Mhm.
Is it against? Is it haram? Or I don't even know if that's the word or whatever. But
It
like,
is.
if you're not following the fast, uh, are you allowed to get like a IV drip, or is that like against the fast
If
too?
you're fasting, so first of all, if you're fasting and you need an IV drip, you should not be fasting. So that's the thing right there, right?
Yeah.
Fasting in our religion is only for the able-bodied and mind. So that means you have to be physically healthy and mentally healthy. If you're mentally unwell, then you shouldn't be fasting either. And if you're so if you have like a chronic disease like diabetes or like kidney stones or things like that, especially with like kidney stones, you need to be drinking a lot of water so you can pass the stones and things like that. That you get a pass, like pretty much. You don't need to fast. What you do instead of it, you kind of just donate some money to pay for as like a donation for poor people to give them food for their like breaking their fast and stuff. But it's like an exchange.
But is technically getting an IV drip breaking
But
fast?
yes, yeah,
Okay, okay,
because you're getting
okay,
sustenance. Yeah.
okay.
So if it's like a
Oh,
liquid, not liquid IV, but the what's it called? Like the
Yeah, like the saline,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like you get in a hospital if you're
because you're getting
dehydrated or whatever.
hydrated, right?
Well,
They're putting.
I'm
Yeah.
saying not that. I'm saying not the hospital version. I'm saying it's somebody's just like, like they have that thing. I can't remember what it's called, where it's just like people legit just go
Oh,
to like these IV like not bars, but like something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
they
you
do
can't do
that
that.
because they have vitamins. They have
Exactly.
like yeah, yeah, and no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
shut up.
and I'm talking about like Ramadan fasting
Yeah.
rules
Yeah,
here, not
yeah,
like just you know. But
yeah. This is strictly for that. Okay, yeah. I was just curious. I don't know if there's loopholes. I'm not like too keen on the rules over there, and I feel like my go-to Muslim. I don't know.
This man said my go-to Muslim.
Yeah. Um, don't worry, I got you, bro. Um,
Yeah, I don't want to offend nobody. I already did by asking stupid questions.
I don't think that's
um,
offensive. You didn't do
no,
nothing wrong.
I'm not
okay.
offended, so
No.
you're good.
And
Who do you
the
think you are
internet is
asking a question about something you genuinely wanted to know?
Yeah.
You know, like
stupid American. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's all I can hear
well,
instantly.
in every other country's defense, yeah, America's pretty dumb.
Yeah, yes. Very true. Very true.
All
They're
right.
loud and obnoxious.
Yeah,
Yep.
just
All
dumb
right.
too.
We ready to start this main topic?
Right, let's jump in. Today we are talking about The Last of Us season 1. The Last of Us season 1 review. So, HBO Max adapted The Last of Us video game. Now, we reviewed the first episode or the first two episodes, first episode, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So the first episode here, and we didn't really go too deep into it because we didn't want to, as people who played the video game, we didn't want to ruin anything for the listeners
Yeah, no
because
spoilers.
we
Spoil it
could
for the
easily
newcomers.
spoil it. Yeah, and there's a lot to spoil
Mhm.
in the show. There's a lot going on.
Uh,
It's amazing.
We could still spoil. I could tell them about when
Oh,
Jack and Daxter show up.
yeah, I don't even know who you're talking about, but
It's
okay.
all good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's a gaming thing.
Is
The gamers got.
Even
The gamers got it.
that
I feel
yeah,
like
okay.
everyone's gonna be shooketh the next season though, like in the beginning,
Oh,
for what's to
mm,
come.
oh
Mm,
yeah.
mm,
People are gonna have a lot to say about that.
mm.
It's
But
just like the game, actually. I feel like
yeah, I
when
think
when they
it's gonna
found
be
out, they
split.
were just like, "No, what the hell?"
Well, remember, a bunch of
Um,
people are just like, "Fuck this game! It should end because of what
Yeah.
happens."
Yeah.
That's how. Like, so anybody who's watching this who hasn't played the second game doesn't know what's happening. Everything we're saying is we're not even trying to joke around. We're being genuine. Like something happens early on in the beginning of the second game that made people like stop fucking playing the game. Like they were just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
"Fuck this!" There's done. And then there's a part in the middle of the game of the second game where a lot of people who like were like, "This is bullshit. Let me keep on playing, see what happens." Once you get to that middle part, then they're like, "No, fuck this for sure. I'm done. I want my money back. I'm never buying a Naughty Dog game ever again." Like this hit people hard.
Yeah.
So I love
yep.
it though. I love it
So
so
I
much.
can't wait. I can't wait for that next season.
Yeah,
But
Man, it
let's tell
was
them about this first season.
let's do it.
it was wild. So it's not gonna be just one season. It's gonna be two seasons. So The Last of Us Part Two,
I don't know.
the video game will be broken up into two season, and to me that makes a lot of sense. What's
Is
up?
that official though?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
Because
been
I'm
announced.
starting to hear that it's going to be many
Oh,
seasons.
more
Not
than two.
yeah.
Oh wow, they're gonna
I mean,
milk that shit. I
honestly,
mean, they could.
either way, it makes sense. But it's not going to be just one season. It's going to be more than one season
Oh
for
yeah,
part
because
two because
so much happens. Yeah.
there's just they expand so much on the world. They introduce so many characters, and the way the story takes place is you're going back and forth between the two main protagonists,
Okay.
and
Yep.
so you're getting each person's story and backstory and their friends' backstories, and just you're experiencing the world from so many different point of views, and it's a great storytelling mechanism to really expand upon this amazing world that you ended up building. So a shout out to Neil Druckmann and the team. They did a phenomenal job on The Last of Us Part 2. One of the, if not the greatest sequel to happen. You know, usually sequels aren't that great, and then like they make it up maybe in the third if it's a trilogy. But like this sequel was phenomenal. Like I can't even.
See, games are different though.
Yeah,
Games are just like sequels usually do hit harder.
yeah,
Yeah, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3 are better than Uncharted 1. Super Mario
nice.
3 is significantly better than 1 and 2. Last of Us 2, for most people, they're going to say Last of Us 1's better, to be honest. But Last of Us 2 is like my favorite game. People like God of War 2.
Hmm.
You know, they also like God of War. So it's like in video gaming,
God of
It's
War
usually the
2,
sequels
listen,
that.
God of War
Do
2
you
was really
feel like
good.
the sequels get better because the gameplay gets better? Like they fine tune the game
Exactly.
mechanic.
Gameplay gets better, mechanics are better. They learn. A lot of times you'll have like a team. It's what's a good example? I mean, I guess I could use Naughty Dog. Like Naughty Dog was already an established company before Last of Us came out. They did the Jack and Daxter series, which is like Jack Daxter, Jack Two, Jack Three, all that, which was beloved in its own way. Then they came out with Uncharted, and I was just like, oh, okay, Uncharted, it hit this. So the way it worked with them, I was just kind of like, when they made the first Uncharted. I was like, their biggest thing was just like, oh my god, Nathan Drake! Look, when he goes in the water and then he gets out, his pants are still wet. Which I know it sounds crazy, but in video games, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, his pants are still wet. That's insane. So
Yeah.
it's like, you have
It's so
little things like that.
realistic.
What's that?
It's so realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly. And then when you jump from Uncharted to Uncharted 2, then it's just like, okay, they've made more money. So they can hire a better team. They have better equipment. They already know how to make this type of game. They've already built upon that. So that's
Mm.
why I feel like games, they just kind of build off of what they already have established, and
Yeah.
hence the sequel
That makes a
usually
lot of
well.
sense.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, so the sequel is phenomenal, and I can't wait for everyone to enjoy the show that they're gonna create. I can't wait to see who they're gonna be, the casting choices are. Super excited for that. And she better be brolic as fuck.
Hey
That's all
man,
I
I
gotta
don't even want
say.
to say her name. Like
That's all
I
I
don't
gotta
want to
say.
say
I'm not
nothing
gonna
to
say
them.
her
Oh
name.
no, I know you won't.
She
So
has to be jacked. Like at
she
least
better be.
toned up. Like I want to see her bench
I
press.
want to
Like
see her fucking backbeat Diesel. Like,
Yeah, legit might be my favorite character in the Last of
yeah,
Us series.
so good. I mean, all the characters in The Last of Us, all the characters have so much depth, like humanity
Oh yeah,
in
just
all of them.
yeah.
It's wild. Like
No.
it's just
It's just a
phenomenal.
well written story. Like at the end of
Yeah,
the day, I've always been a story guy. I've always liked the drama, and I've always said The Last of Us is the best story in gaming ever.
yeah.
And I mean, people finally get to see that. You know?
No, you're 100.
definitely one of the best story games I've ever played. Not that I've played a lot or anything, but
Yeah,
hands down, like the my new games that I've played, it's this one. The storytelling is just
easily. Yeah,
phenomenal. Like there's so
For
many
me,
twists and turns, and I
yeah,
love that you get to see like the motivations of everybody. So you
mhm,
really get to see like, at one point one person may seem like the antagonist, but then like at another point you get to see that person's point of view, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, that's why that person did that, and then
yeah,
now you're feeling for both sides, and now
yep,
it's like a moral conundrum.
yep,
um,
no, it's
but
funny how they flip that because like in the game, whenever you play one character, the other like one becomes the protagonist, one becomes the antagonist. And you're used to one person being the protagonist,
yep,
and all of a sudden now they're on the other side
yep,
being the antagonist, and you're like, it's
yeah.
mind-blowing,
And
but
you
it's
feel like you're
humanity.
fighting yourself
Yeah,
because
it's
at that point it's like
humanity,
this
yeah.
has been me for like
Yeah.
legit. Because how long is the game? It's like I don't. Let's say it's a 30-hour game. So for 15 hours, you are this one person. You hit that 16th hour, now you're the person, the opposite,
Yeah.
legit, like you said, there's no better word, antagonist. And
Yeah.
now you're going after you who you were for 15 hours. And now you're just like, you get to a point where you have to confront them. You're just like, I don't know what to do. It's like I like both these people, and I don't want. I can we all just be friends?
Yeah.
Please, can we all just be friends?
Oof.
for real.
The
You said
decisions they
something.
make, yeah.
You said something like you feel like you're that character, and that's one thing that I really wanted to mention that while watching this. I The key difference is like when I played the game, I really felt like I was those characters, and
It's
I
you.
was like,
Yep.
yeah, it's me. This is me in here. And one thing is there's actually game mechanics, and I played with headphones on, so I really got to
Nice.
feel like I was there.
Yep.
And so you while you're actually like hiding from the zombies, fighting the zombies, and even the people too, you feel like you're there. And so I built this attachment based off that I didn't feel the show actually conveyed. And actually, I think the show took out a lot of that gameplay, zombie, the cordyceps mechanics, and that's one thing I didn't like, but I totally understand why, because they needed to like progress the story at a smoother pace. But
Yeah.
that's also at the same time, I guess the point I'm trying to make is one aspect of the game that really helped me bond with the characters. While I was watching the show, not that it was bad or anything, I just didn't feel like, oh, okay, this is me. It's like, okay, I'm actually watching them now. Like that,
Yeah.
it was more of a spectator point of view.
I
But
mean,
that
yeah.
also gave them the room to give more backstory and depth. So it's like you give and take, and so that's just one thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
So if you're watching the show, I highly recommend you do play it because it really is honestly a different experience. Same storyline almost for the most part, but you do interact and feel the characters differently. And
Yep.
so I recommend doing both, honestly.
Yeah,
Play
definitely.
and watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing when it comes to shows and movies and adaptations from games. It's like games do something that you can't do with anything else. They put you in the driver's seat,
Mhm.
so it is revolved around you. And that's the thing. That's why it's like as much as I like the show, and I don't get I really like this show. I'm gonna put the game over it easily. Simply because of that. Now, granted, it's funny because Disco, you're talking about with the fighting and all that stuff, how they kind of like didn't really do that in the show. I fucking love that. I wish they did that in the game.
Mhm.
I don't want to fucking fight anybody. Like
No,
when I
I
played Last of Us, I legit was just like, just give me the cutscenes. Like legit, I'll give you like $70. Show me nothing but cutscenes, and I just walk from one cutscene to the other, and I will love it.
it's the game interactive movie.
Yeah.
No, but for me, honestly, the most scariest parts were that hypothetically you're just walking around a corridor and then you hear like a clicker in the background, and for me that was like just one of the scariest moments. But
Yeah,
they kind of had that in the show, but it was just like one time for the feel of it.
yeah.
Where in the game it's like you feel that multiple
You're
times and it's
constantly on
more
edge. Yeah.
realistic. I'm just like constantly every little sound, every little step is just like I'm gonna die. And there's so much tension in the air built off that, and I kind of wish they had more of that. And also, one more thing I wanted to mention was uh, the bloaters. I remember there was a fight with the bloater in a gym, and the bloater was like
Oh, right.
shooting
Yeah.
bloater stuff, and I was like waiting for that scene to happen, and it never came. Instead, they lumped some the bloater with that one scene where I guess spoilers, where the zombies just pop out of the ground, and
Yeah,
it
in the
kind
tunnel.
of kind of ticked me off because it wasn't even a bloater; it was just a giant zombie. It didn't like bloat the stuff. It didn't shoot out the toxin, the poison or whatever. And I was kind of I I like that. It's
Well,
kind of
remember
just
that
the zombie
this.
is generic.
Yeah, the thing is, this the one key difference between the show and the game is the show didn't have spores. That's why it didn't make sense for the bloater to throw stuff because the spores are like kind of what burns you and that messes you up and then infects you potentially. There are no spores. That's why whenever they walked around in the game, they had to wear gas masks because of the spores. In the show, they didn't have that. Instead, they came up with the whole when they bite you, they have like the tentacle things like the
I
that go
see.
out. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's one of the differences. That's why it's just like I agree with you because the bloater is legit just like oh, it's just a clicker that's bigger. You know,
Yeah, I mean
that's
you'd
really
have
the
to change
difference.
the name. That's not a bloater anymore.
Yeah.
Like in my head.
Well, if anything, they could still make it like spit out like some type of acid or something. But
Hmm.
like so. I agree and disagree on some things. I feel like if they did too much of the zombie fighting, then this show would have became a zombie killing show.
Hmm.
And that's not what The Last of Us is. Last
Exactly.
of Us is not a zombie killing game, and it's not a zombie killing show. You are enveloped in this world that just happens to be a zombie world, but like the story is taking place around these very
The
interesting
people. No.
characters, and that's where the concentration has to be. So that's why we didn't see too many. Like we got introduced to some of the infected, the clickers. We got to see a bloater, and then but the rest was kind of like the interactions between Ellie and Joel and like all the other people, the humans, because that's where the interesting part is, right? The clickers and stuff is kind of gives you that jump scare, that fear for your life. They're running, they're shooting action, but when it comes to like them interacting with Marlene, them interacting with the cannibals, them interacting with all these things, that's where the real like story, emotions, and like the thing that's gonna keep the person watching more interested. As for the gamer, it makes more sense to have more of that action because then you're the one who's actually shooting and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and it's your skill that gets you out of these situations. So I think it was the right choice for them to lessen the zombies in the show, and I feel like they really understood the medium that they were using, right? So the medium of the video game needed the action, where the medium of the television show needed more of the drama and the background stories and all these interesting dynamics to keep the person interested. So I feel like they had a really great balance between one story being told within two different mediums, and it really shows what
Mhm.
needs to be changed to be able to tell that same story perfectly within each medium, right? You can't copy it 100%, but you might need to do some changes just for the betterment of the way the
Mhm.
story is being told through that said medium.
Mhm.
um, and we got to see that through the show a lot. Like I really loved in episode 2 how they kind of expanded on Jakarta, and they showed like all that stuff that happened there, and the scientist lady checking it out, and she was just telling the general, she's like, just bomb it, just
Yeah.
like get your planes and then bomb the shit out of this
Yeah.
city. And it is what it is. I need to go be with my family. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just that scene was just so powerful to
Yeah.
me, because it's just like she, as someone who understands what these things can do, like unless you're a scientist, like the general didn't really understand, didn't believe her.
Yeah.
He's
It's
like,
like basically, yeah. What can we do? We got this, right?
he's like, yeah, we can do this. There's a vaccine. Like
Yeah.
she's like literally no. Like there's nothing that's gonna be a vaccine. There's
Mhm.
like it's just bomb it. We
Yeah.
have to burn it before it spreads.
Yeah.
And like they just like, because they don't understand the science, they didn't believe her. And then it was just, I'm sure it was spreading in other places as
Yeah. I'm
well.
sure at
And
that point it was already worldwide.
yeah, but it's just like that was such a powerful moment too.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of
That
ones that,
interview, the
yeah.
interview was
In
pretty
episode
cool
one.
too, where the dude was like talking about the cordyceps. I
In
don't
the
think that
first
was in the
episode, yeah.
game, but it was
No, it
kind of
wasn't.
cool to
No, that
like
wasn't in the game.
really
Yeah.
set the scene and
Yeah.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
They needed to give
But
you I think and again, that's another thing for the medium, where they gave you a little preview of what could happen and why this happened,
Mhm.
just so later on they don't really have to concentrate on it too
Yeah.
much, because this is not a show about zombies. It's
Mhm.
about show the people within a zombie
Mhm.
world. So they gave you the reasoning for the zombie world, and then
Mhm.
they're kind of like, do you understand now? We're good, we're gonna move on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I,
And the fact that
I
they tied
guess
in
I
global
guess
warming to
I
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
I guess I
awesome.
appreciated the variety of zombies a little more than everybody else because I wanted to
No,
see.
I
I wish they cherry picked more of the zombie scenes instead of just lump summing because I feel like that's what they did on episode 2 or whatever it was.
but
They just
the
lump summed the bloater and like what the little girl zombie too was in there and like they
yeah,
just threw it in for like shock factor and to be
I
like,
don't
oh
remember seeing children zombies in the game.
Well, think about it. In a video game, do you want to be killing kids?
Exactly. So I think that's why they
Yeah.
showed it
Exactly.
in the show, because they're not going to show someone shooting this little girl. But
Like the fact that they had Sarah killed at the beginning. Spoilers.
yeah,
Granted, it's episode one.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know. But like the fact that they had her killed. I mean, I don't know how I don't. I mean, when Last of Us came out in 2013, I don't know how familiar you guys were with it at the time.
yeah,
But in 2013, when that happened, the gaming world lost their minds. They're like,
yeah,
you can't kill a child. Like this isn't allowed. Like
yeah,
and like everybody, like there was reaction videos of people just like, hey, there's this game called The Last of Us. Check it out. Just watch the first couple minutes. And, like they used to have like the reaction video channel on YouTube. I don't know
yeah,
if it's
yeah.
still there, and where it's like, oh, people react. They had every version of that reacting to Last of Us. And it's just like you have an old person who's like, "Oh, what do I do? Oh, I'm a little girl. Yeah, I love my dad. I got to watch. Oh my fucking god, they killed a child, and people
Yeah,
are crying and
yeah.
everything. It
it's
was just
like in
like,
the first 10 minutes of the game too. It's
yeah,
like
Because they give you like this false sense of like this is the main character,
exactly.
and then they go Games of Thrones with it. They're just
Yeah,
like, this
it's
this
like,
is
no,
your
this ain't
main
it.
character. This is
This
who
ain't
you're
it.
gonna be. Boom, she's dead. You're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yep.
That's wild.
And then
But
you
they
yeah,
did
have
that really well in the show too. The actress that played her in the show,
Danny
she
Newton's
did
daughter.
a very
Yeah.
yeah, she did a very good job of like winning your hearts over,
yeah,
and it was
Yeah.
fun because I got to see like my girlfriend and her family like get attached to this character, and meanwhile I'm like, she's gonna die in my head. Not trying to spoiler it, but like,
Quick question. This goes out to you and everybody else who's watching this podcast, obviously, that watched the show that already knew it was happening because of the game. Did anybody else realize that we're all kind of sick and twisted when it got to the point where it's just like we're watching the show, but we're also doing this? Like we're looking, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I want to see how you react to this now.
Dude,
I want
yeah,
to see
yeah,
how
yeah.
this sick and twisted shit gets to you. I want to watch you. Like I
to
was doing the
see
same thing.
get to see the trauma on their faces,
So
the betrayal. Ah.
I was watching like the whole thing with Nadia,
Yeah.
and it was just like so she's a talker.
Yeah.
So she like it doesn't matter what show we're watching. She
Yeah.
like talks to the television.
Okay.
And like she's like talking like she's just saying everything that's going on through her head
Yeah.
reaction wise
Okay.
while the episode is playing. So I don't even
Nice.
have to look at her.
She's just telling you how she feels.
Yeah. So it was
That's the
just it was
perfect like
dude,
reactive like
yeah.
personality.
So I was just like reliving this whole thing through her, and it was just like the way she took things and the way I took things when I played the game and stuff was just like very different, and it
Mhm.
was just like it was funny. It was very interesting to see.
So I saw most of it with my mom when she was here.
Yeah.
And then she granted I showed her the game years ago, so she already knew the story. It's just about how much she remembered. So she remembered a few things here and there. And then just not even a week ago, I was talking to my dad and my sister who were also coming down to visit this time. And I was just like, "Hey, so you guys watched Last of Us?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, it was great." And I remember, and of course, I had to call up my dad. I was like, "I tried to tell you to watch gameplay like I showed mom years ago because it's the greatest story ever." And you're just like, "No, because it's a game, it can't be good." I'm like, "Here you are now, fucking loving the show." But anyway, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother story. And part of me is thinking it's just like because they were talking about my sister's like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait next year for season 2." And I was like, "From what I hear, it's not next year, but I mean, we'll get into that, I'm
Yes.
sure."
I
But
think it's like 25 they said.
yeah, I think it was like at least early 2025. But anyway, I was telling
Yeah.
her, I was like, and she was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna be so old now." I was like, Relax, you're not old." And and then it's funny because I was like, you know what, they are gonna come down to visit. I own Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't think I played it on my PS5 yet. I was just like, if that's the case, I was like, if they're gonna come down to visit, I'm like, I legit might just be like, "Hey, why don't you guys sit down? Let me play the game for you for a second." And then just
Oh
at the very
Lord.
least play the
They're gonna
beginning, and
lose it.
I'm just gonna be looking at them as I'm playing it, just like yeah. What do you think?
Jesus.
Like feel the pain.
It's such a strong opening for a game too, like,
Both games,
y-
the first
ah,
and the second.
it's
Oh
wild.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's wild.
Neil's just amazing. That's an amazing story writer.
Oh.
yeah, man.
So, all right. One, I got some notes here, so I'm
Mhm.
kind of just gonna read some of them off and do the conversation that way. When they were going through, and I think it was like episode 2, yeah, that's when Tess dies, and like when they were going through the city and the hotel,
Mhm.
and how they had to like go through it, go up, go over that little like wood plank and stuff. It's
Yep.
like I remember that specifically from the game too,
Dude,
like just playing
yeah,
that.
everything
It
at
was
that
just
point.
so phenomenal. Um, uh, so you had that was super authentic. You had the that scene when she dies, and like when the guy when those people died, and like the mycel like the mushrooms like attached to a person,
Mm.
like that one of the dead people,
Yeah, yeah.
and then like all those zombies that were kind of like immobilized because they were kind of like
They're like in weird
hibernating.
stasis. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like in
And
standby.
all of a sudden just wake up and start running, and then they kind of just shows you how like that mycelial network
I
is.
see. I didn't like that, to be
I
honest.
loved it because like
It's
we've recently discovered like the mycelial network, right? This is
Okay.
something that's been recent in science in the past like decade, and has been used a lot in many different shows, one of them being Star Trek Discovery. um and like what the mycelial network is, it's like this underground network of like roots and nerves of like the mushrooms and the trees and like all flora life form,
Mhm.
where they almost like were most likely they communicate to each other like
Yeah.
what's happening, which is just like mind blowing to
I mean, Yes, but it's like at the same time, it's like I don't give a shit if it's real or not. It's like
No,
this is a make
I
I
believe.
feel
You know, it's
that's
like a make
true.
believe
I
show. My thing is like you have to think there's so many of these things everywhere.
yeah.
So by that logic, can you walk anywhere without activating this? No.
Well, I think that person, because he died and was bleeding and like it like there was
Yes,
something there
but that's
for it to
see, you
like.
shouldn't have to make excuses. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not
It's
making
like
excuses because that's what literally happened in the show.
that's it doesn't mean an excuse is false. It's still an excuse. I
Eh,
mean, at the end of the day, it's just like honest to God, can they go anywhere without having a million of these, runners going after them now? It's just like that's the only thing. It's like I feel like it's one of those things where they did it one time in the show, and I
nah,
think I heard somebody somewhere already mention it was just like, oh, how come that hasn't happened again? I was like, that's just the beginning of it. Or it's just
yeah,
be like I feel if they keep going with the show, it's just be like, okay, remember that time this thing happened that one time?
yeah.
How come that doesn't keep happening anymore? I was like,
Well, I
it's
think
cool
in
that they showed it, but it's just like I feel like it wasn't really necessary.
I think they mentioned in the second for like the second season. I think now with the success of this first season, I think HBO is going to be putting some more money into the budget, and I think they're going to be definitely doing more infected, and especially for the second game, we have like these two or three other specific infected that are very scary, especially the stalkers.
Well, they showed the stalker in this one.
They showed a stalker.
I'm assuming that was a stalker. I
When?
guess we're getting into spoilers, right? We're doing spoilers now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we've been.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know how much we want to get into it.
It's okay.
The Riley episode. There's only one in there. It was, if I remember correctly, it was like stuck to a wall. It
Hmm.
was kind of like luring. It wasn't like the first game had stalkers too, but they weren't. They didn't work with the same exact mechanics they did in the second game.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was similar to that type of stalker, where it
Yeah,
was just like it wasn't like the legit hiding and watching and
yeah.
hunting, but it was the whole like okay, like because it even had it wasn't a full clicker, but it wasn't a regular like infected. It was
Oh,
in
okay.
between, and that is what a stalker is.
Ah,
So
okay.
it was kind of just like right in the mix, and it kind of heard what was happening. It was hunting them down. It got them, and then the rest is history there.
Yeah,
So that was in a sense a stalker, but it wasn't the whole like I'm gonna creep around and watch and have my own tactics on
yeah.
how to
So
find
it
them.
like,
it didn't give that like exactly that stocky feel where the
yeah.
name comes from. But
Mm.
I see what you're saying. Technically, it could have been a stalker.
Yeah,
Now I want to. I can't
How
wait
did
to.
you guys? One thing, real quick, before we get too far away from it, is how did you guys feel about when Tess died? That one zombie like cordyceps kissed her. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that
felt
was
like that was a little
interesting.
weird, but
it was
I didn't know
okay.
how to feel about it really. To be honest, I was like,
I don't know. I think I liked it. Like I liked how they. Dan said they used those tentacles instead of the spores, which I'm completely fine with. Um, and I kind of just like that because like in the beginnings, most of them were kind of just ignoring her because I feel like they could almost sense she's already been infected.
Mhm.
And then like once all the others kind of were running after Joel and Ellie, this one came kind of to just like finish the job. They were
Mhm.
like, we just like you're gonna do this faster, so
get
let's
the
get it.
full dose.
Yeah, and then she dropped the bomb and dropped the grenade and or the lighter, and then she blew them all up.
I feel
I
like
feel
that
like
was
yes, she
yeah.
was gonna die, but like I I would have expected more from her or something to cause more of a ruckus, to cause more attention, to be like, hey, come here. But she just like stood there, took the kiss, and then died.
See,
I don't know.
that's one thing they changed from the game, and I prefer the
Yeah,
game more.
because in the game they were humans, not infected.
It was the Fedra. Fedra
Yeah,
came.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I prefer that because it was like she did have like a she had a last stand. She was like, "This
Yeah,
is my moment. I'm going to do this." The hope that maybe Joel could get this girl who could potentially be a cure out of here, and this is my last stand to do that. This is my part to play. So
yeah,
I kind of like that. With this one, I feel similar to the network of Infected. It was just like, "Hey, this is a cool idea they came up with, and they needed a moment to show it. So this is where
yeah,
they chose." Like I feel like it was the same exact thing. It was just like, "Hey, here's a concept we came up with for the show. Look at this really cool scene. We're going to show us." I'm like, "Ah, that's cool. Thank
yeah.
you."
I feel like they might have did that also just to kind of like put more zombies in,
Mhm.
and it is what it is, but it kind of was reminiscent from the way they were running was kind of like World War Z. You know, the zombies all kind of like pile on each other and they're just like running. Um, But either way, they for the most part, like 99% of the show was phenomenal. But all right,
True.
um, episode three I think was Bill, right?
Bill and
Bill and
Frank.
Frank.
Bill and Frank. One
God
of the
damn that
greatest
episode
episodes
of television.
ever. Um, the I had one issue with this episode,
Hmm.
just one issue,
Hmm.
that Bill died.
Mm.
And I wished he was still alive so that he can it's just like Nick Offerman and Ellie would have been like just meet
Go
Ellie.
back
It
and
would have been
forth.
great. Yeah, it would have
Yeah.
been phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, especially him even more hardened
Yep.
after the love of his life
Yep.
died, and like more of an asshole,
Hmm.
and meeting Joel and like almost killing him because he
Yeah.
just doesn't give a shit anymore. That would have been so great. and
Yeah.
and it is what it is, but that episode was just phenomenal.
Yeah. I feel like for the story they told with Bill and Frank, it
Yeah.
makes more sense to do it the way they did it.
Yeah.
In that sense, like in the game, for anybody who hasn't played the game,
Yeah.
it's
Frank was already dead
Frank
when
was
they
dead.
met. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't know. Nobody knew. Frank was dead. You didn't even know like Frank, I think, existed
Yeah.
until like the very end of that part of the game. So like you meet Bill and he's just an asshole. Like
Yeah.
he and Ellie, like the moment he meets Ellie, he just like legit handcuffs her to a pipe,
Yeah.
and then she rips off the pipe and starts dancing with it. That's how they met. You know, so it's like
Yeah.
what that's something is absolutely correct. That would have been
Yeah.
amazing to see it that way. But I do feel like honestly with the Bill and Frank, I don't think I would have changed the thing. Like it was, I feel like it
No,
was so much better in one of these instances where it's rare for me. This was better in the show than it was in the
it
game.
had it had so
Um,
much more depth. Like you just can't not.
yeah,
I know a lot of homophobic people were like, "Ah, this episode, why they spent so
what else
much
was bad?
time on it."
Yeah,
I
But
mean, the beard on beard
honestly,
action was still a little weird, but I mean,
I
otherwise the story was
yeah,
phenomenal.
I was like,
I loved it. I loved it from
yeah,
start to finish. They really built
it's
it.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
How he was skeptical at first, and then they like low key fell in love at the piano, and then in the bedroom and the food. I thought it was like such a
So true.
interesting, unique romance.
Yeah,
Like you don't you don't really see that too much in zombie epics, like
yeah,
and I really like
yeah,
that they took the time to kind of show this backstory and the way they tied it all into at the end where they spoilers they ended up killing themselves and they left the note there and then Joel and Ellie come and find it and
yeah,
get kind of get to restock with all their stuff, but it was a nice very nicely done edit. That was one of
yeah.
the things that I was like,
Oh yeah,
wow. I,
it's
I know a
it.
lot of people also hated it too because they're like, "Why did you spend so much time on this gay shit?" When there's so much more to the story, like we're halfway with the
Yeah,
season and they spent so much time on this, like so.
yeah.
But
Well,
overall, I think they did very well with the pacing.
yeah, I mean, when this episode aired, there was for some reason Disco and I were doing an episode. I think Eslam, I think you might already have been in Dubai, and
Mm,
Disco and I
yeah.
did an episode on something, and we came up with news for The Last of Us. I was like, oh, by the way, Last of Us happened, and then he and I go on this whole rant talking about episode 3 of The Last of Us, and we kept saying, "It's like we need to stop because we're going to do an episode later where we review the whole season today's episode." And we kept going. And I remember one thing that we both came away with when we were saying is like, when was the last time you got to see a couple grow old in a zombie apocalypse? I
Oh,
don't
that
think
is
that's ever
very
been
true.
done.
Yeah.
And it's like we legit got to see them like meet, fall in love, grow old, and die together. I've
Yeah.
never seen that in a zombie thing, you
Real.
know?
And
So
it's
it's like,
what's even more fucked up? How like just getting a disease, another disease that's not the zombie virus
mhm,
in a zombie apocalypse and ending
yeah,
up dying from that. It's just so fucked up.
dude, it's
So
crazy.
It's
ironic. Just like,
it's
come
just
on.
Yeah,
I was able to survive this zombie
yeah,
apocalypse, but I'm gonna die from MLS. Like, all
yeah,
right,
that
well,
or
It
yeah,
it really it
dude,
really makes you think though, like it's kind of back in the Stone Age almost, because it's like you don't have access to all these
yeah,
medicines
yeah,
or penicillin, even like
yeah.
anything really, and
You
it's
just find
like
some pills and be like, this might be good, you
I'm
know?
gonna die from the flu. Ugh.
Yeah,
It's
like for
like
real. It's
um,
crazy, but it's true, man.
so really cool glimpse into that
Yeah.
into the universe,
Oh,
this Last of Us universe.
one thing that you just when you said glimpse is the end of that specific episode. I don't know how well you guys remember I'm gonna get this is a real deep cut. The menu for the first Last of Us game, like when you hit like continue or when you go back to the game or you press start or start the game for the first time, there's the menu option, right?
hmm
And when you look at it, it's just like this weird like just like dark window or whatever. And then once you finish the game, it's like brighter, like the windows open, you see everything flowing. And then at the end of this episode, the camera pans up to Bill and Frank's bedroom where they're dead, and Joel and Ellie, you see them walking away, and then they show it from the window. And I'm like, oh shit, that's the window from the fucking menu of the game.
Oh wow.
And it's just like and now this time the only difference is in the distance you see Joel and Ellie walking away, and it's the same exact window shot. I'm like, that's
Nice.
incredible. Like that's a fucking deep cut right there.
Yeah, I'm the amount of things probably we didn't even catch that they put in there
Yeah.
is wild. So
Yeah, man.
yeah. I think next up was Sam and Henry, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm. That was
That was
that.
yeah. Shit, man, that was another one. So in this one, Sam is deaf and mute.
Yeah.
And in
yeah.
the game, he was supposed to be that, but I heard Neil and uh, what's his name?
Greg Mason?
Was it him?
I don't
Oh, I
know.
thought it was the voice of Joel.
Oh, oh wow, I really forgot his name.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm ashamed. I apologize
So
to everyone.
I thought I saw something where they were kind of discussing that
Troy Baker. His name's Troy Baker. I
Troy
got it
Baker,
before I
Troy
typed it out.
Baker.
how they went about making that decision of bringing that back into the show since they couldn't really do it in the game,
Mhm.
and it worked really well, and that whole story is just like it was so good. Again, it's just like they are able to capture these like stories of like these characters that you don't need a lot of time to kind of like fall in love with, or they develop them so quickly within these conversations and like small backstories, and like
Mhm.
you're like, what did he do that was so bad, Henry, that this lady and this whole army's going
Yeah.
after them for? And like you find out from her side of the story, you find out from his side of the story, and in these conversations throughout this like 1 hour episode, and then you have fully developed characters that
Yep.
you're like, man, these people are awesome,
Yeah.
and you completely understand everything. And it's just like then you kind of go and look at shows like, I don't know off the top of my head, Lord of the Rings, and why it's so shit. Like what the fuck. You
Yeah,
had a
man.
whole season and
That
Galadriel was
right.
still garbage. Like who the fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
All
man.
the characters were garbage. Like they didn't elaborate on any. Like they
Like
tried, but it just like missed the shot
it
every.
blows my
But that's
mind, man.
I'm
but
when I'm
this
mad
this one
about that
was.
show is I saw I think like 2.5 episodes, maybe three. I was not interested, barely paid any attention. And then when we did the review on this podcast, I fucking my guess about who Sauron was right. It's like I didn't even fucking put effort into the show and I got that shit. Come on.
Yeah,
Like that's ridiculous. But
but
no,
But
one of the things
I
I wanted
like
to say, yeah,
how
go ahead.
in the show in this episode with the Henry and Sam, I like how they kind of were leading us on to be like they're gonna join the group type thing, and then in typical Last of Us fashion, it
Yeah.
does not go down like that at
Yeah.
all, and the
Well, it was the
craziest
same thing in
stuff
the
goes
game.
down.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Spoilers, but the Sam ends up turning, and then Henry has to kill him to
yeah.
because it's his responsibility almost pretty much, and
Hmm.
you just could feel that pain, and for him to have to do that, and after he did it, he immediately just killed himself. There's like I
Well,
don't.
he killed him because it happened so fast, and he just like he shot. Well, no, he kind of had to thought about it because he has to stop Joel from doing it, and then like he did it, like you said, because it's his responsibility. And then once he did it, he's like, "What did I just do? Like, what just happened?"
Hmm.
And then like he just couldn't comprehend or and deal with it, and just like he
Yeah.
shot himself, and it's just
Yeah.
and in the show, um, my God, Bella Ramsey,
Hmm.
such a phenomenal actress.
Hmm.
You really see how much it affected her after she buried them, and
Hmm.
like how cold she got.
Hmm.
And then you kind of see Joel, and you're like, you understand why he is how he is because he's went through that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
times, and it's just
And
it kills your soul.
not only that, this is the point of the game and the show where remember before all this, Joel is just like, "Hey, I have to take this girl. She's cargo." They even say that in the
Yeah,
show.
yeah,
You're cargo. I just got to get you over here to do what I got to do. And then at this point is where he kind of like opens up with her. He's like, "I kind of have to depend on you. In both in the show and the game, this is where he gives her a gun for the first time. And it's like, I need your help. We're gonna work at this. We're gonna work through this together. Meet Sam and Henry, become friends with them, and you're kind of just like, and in both things, in both the game and in the show, you see to the point where Joel softens up to the point where he's just like, you know what, we're heading out to Jackson. Why don't you guys come along?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then it's like, yeah, go ahead.
it was cool because at first he didn't. He wasn't like he was
Oh
closed
yeah,
off, and then like you said, Bella or Ellie was playing with Sam, and she saw them kind of like actually bonding and
he's
having
like something good
fun,
happened.
like the olden days, and it kind of brought that nostalgia, and then you see like Dan said, he invites them, and it's just such a good progression.
Yeah,
And even when Henry kills Sam, it I don't know, I don't remember this in the game, but like it put kind of little doubts in Joel's mind where he's just like, I should have done that. I should have been able to like, and he kind of like was like doubting himself, like if he's good enough to
mhm,
actually get Ellie there. And I thought that was kind of cool, extra depth in Joel. I don't
yeah.
remember that in the game, but
There was a little. It wasn't so much doubt, but I mean, we're gonna get to that once we get to that part with when we bring in Tommy. But one thing I want to say real quick, another deep cut. I don't know when you guys played the game, if you, how well you guys were with like picking up the notes and like reading what's going on. Like, oh, there's somebody here died because
Mm-hmm.
of this. So there's like the famous story of Ishmael.
Yeah.
And then that's one thing. Or I was just like, I remember when I was watching this episode, like the one where the end of Sam and Henry, where it's just kind of like they go to the underground, and that's where like some people went to try to survive when the outbreak
Right. Right.
happened.
Yeah.
And then once I see everything, I was like, oh fuck! I was like, please give me the story of Ish. Please give me the story of Ish. So what that is, so you find out that there were some people who went underground, and I don't remember one for one what the detail was, but Ishmael was like the leader and like protector of this group, and they had kids, and they were like, we're gonna stay down here, we're gonna protect everybody. In the end, they all died, and it was a tragic thing. If you want to know the actual details, I'm sure you can watch on YouTube. I'm sure there's like a thing that explains the story of Ishmael. And then in the show, they didn't, obviously you're not going to show that in the show, because in the game it was literally just a note where you're reading and you're collecting the notes and you find out what happened to them. In the show, all you see is they pick up one picture, like of a drawing where kids did, and it was just like it said people's names, and then one of them said Ish. I was like, "Fuck yeah, you did it!"
Nice.
I was like so excited. I was like, "Damn right!" I was like, "God damn, Neil Druckmann!" It's like he knows what we're looking for.
Yeah.
He knows the gamers out here. It's like I need to check this. Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was just
all those
it's
little
great.
hidden Easter eggs,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
man.
amazing the details.
Yep.
Um, it was really cool at the end. Actually, we'll just go in order. I was going to talk about the restaurant scene, how it looked just like the game, in my opinion, but
Oh yeah,
we could.
Oh no, yeah, it was like a perfect replica. But so next up, I think was the town. They reached the town where Tommy's
Jackson.
at,
Yep.
and he meets Tommy, and they throw a nice little Easter egg in there for the gamers
Yeah,
for
they do.
Last of Us season two.
Yeah, they do.
And if you caught it, you caught it. I'm not gonna spoil it, but she meets someone there very briefly that she's gonna be involved with in the second
We
game.
have to assume that's who it is. We're not 100% sure though.
Nah, it is, bro. Come on.
We're not
It
100%
is.
sure. We're not 100%
Okay,
sure.
whatever. Uh, it's not like she was the same race and everything. So,
We're not
um,
100% sure.
yeah.
There's only
Okay.
one person of that race in the world now. There's at least seven.
Nah, nah, nah. There's one. They went from 1 billion to one. So,
No, the whole thing with Tommy, with that sound like disco you were
yeah,
saying, from what I remember in the game, granted, it's been a while since I played it. I don't remember him so much having doubt, Joel, about taking Ellie. It was more kind of just like, hey, just take this load off my hands. You're cool with the Fireflies.
yeah.
I'm tired. I'm good. It's like I don't know if it was so much like can I do it like
I
it
feel
was in the
like
show.
at the same time, it was also him trying to run away from his feelings.
Yeah,
It's just like he's like
I can't let her win.
I'm starting to fall for this girl. She's like my daughter. She's great. Uh, and I lost one daughter already. I can't end up losing another. I can't like get attached and end up losing another. Like it's
Yeah,
gonna like this time it's gonna kill me.
yeah.
And I feel like that's what it was. And they had like that same conversation in the game where it's like it needs to be you. Like
Mhm.
everybody else has died and
And yeah, and one thing they showed very well with the show is like Joel kept on having these weird like little panic attacks
Yes.
throughout it, and to kind of like represent like, okay, like he's starting to think more and more about Sarah. He starts seeing Sarah everywhere
Hmm.
because he's realizing so much. Like Ellie is my surrogate daughter,
Yeah.
just about at this point, who does become that eventually. But yeah, man. So
I
it's
li-
like I feel
I
like they
like
did
that
a good
it
job
like it
showing
made
that.
him made. I like that it like made him more human.
Yeah,
In the game, I've kind of felt like he was a superhero. Just taking his surrogate daughter across the country
yeah.
and do killing
Especially if you're the
zombies,
one
taking
playing him and
names.
you're just like murdering everybody in your path. At this
Yeah,
point, you're like he's unstoppable. That's one of the
yeah.
reasons why I don't like so much like action in the game. Like if you play Uncharted, like Nathan Drake is the world's worst mass murderer because like this man just goes out and in every point of the game he kills at least like 80 to 200 people. And then it's like, hey, I'm Nathan Drake. I'm cool. It's like, dude, you're a murderer. Like all you do is murder people.
It's like I just saved your town. He's killed everybody. um,
All right. But yeah, so we had the nice little Easter egg, and then Joel and Ellie end up just traveling together again, and then they reach the college, I think, afterwards,
Yep.
the university,
Yep. He goes to the
and
science building.
yeah, and then that's where they encounter these four guys that like attack them. The big fight happen, and Joel gets stabbed, and then we start the winter arc. What's up?
Hmm.
What were we gonna say
I
this
just
time?
wanted to say, I I think this happened before that, but the whole Riley episode, I never actually played that
Well, Riley
DLC.
was up right
So,
after this, but yeah,
oh, it was after this? Oh, okay,
yeah.
never mind. I thought it happened before. Okay.
Yeah, so that happened because Riley happened while Joel was sick,
While he
and
was
she
sick.
was reminiscing while she's trying to save him.
That's how the DLC
You're
was.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, um, yeah, so that happens, and then we can just go into the DLC story,
Yeah.
right? So the DLC story happens. So she's able to bring Joel into a house. She kind of like puts a blanket on him, and then she's out hunting for food and trying to find medicine and stuff for his wound. Um, and while she's doing this, she's reminiscing about her time at Federa. And this girl Riley, who ended up joining the Fireflies, who was her like best friend, bunkmate. And Riley comes back. She had disappeared for a couple days. Comes back, takes her, and goes to the mall. She's like, "I have a surprise for you." And then the whole thing goes with the mall. She tells her, "Hey, I joined the Fireflies, and they're sending me to this other town, and come with me." And then Ellie's like, "No," and whatever, and like she's like, "I want you to come with me." And then they kind of like confess to each other that they like each other. They kiss,
Hmm.
and then they get attacked by an infected. They both get bit, and this is the origin of Ellie's bite mark and
Hmm.
how she survived.
One one thing I want to say real quick
Hmm.
about this is so all the things that you do in the game, Eslam, you said you played it, right? The
Yeah,
the
the
DLC.
DLC. Yeah, yeah.
So you do a couple things with Riley, just go in the game. So it's like they did that. Where it's like you put on. Actually, did they do the Halloween masks in the show?
Yes, they
They
did.
did. So
Yeah,
you have like the Halloween mask where you're running around and trying to scare each other. There's also a water gun fight, which is
yeah,
really fun.
yeah, yeah. It
Which they
was
didn't
great.
do. Then you have the merry-go-round and all
Did,
that. And
did they
then
play the Mortal Kombat in the game?
that's what I'm getting to. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
in the game, when they turn on the power, if I remember correctly, Disco correct me. I mean, Eslam correct me if I'm wrong. The games don't turn on. They go to an arcade, but the games aren't on. They're just you just see the
Ah,
arcade
okay.
cabinets. And then there's this one game that they heard about where it's like these people who are fighting in this battle to save their realm that they live in against this other one, this never ending tournament of death. And they legally were not allowed to say Mortal Kombat, but we all knew it was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So tell me when they fucking go into this in this show and they turn it on, everything's working, and I see a cabinet for Mortal Kombat 2, I lost my fucking mind. I was like, they actually got Mortal Kombat 2 for this. Because
Yeah.
when you think about it, Last of Us is a Naughty Dog PlayStation company. At the time, Mortal Kombat was either run by NetherRealm or Midway, and it's run by like WB or whatever. You can't have these companies
Yeah.
working with each other, so you can make references to it, and everybody kind of knows what it is. The fact that they got Mortal Kombat for the show, I was like, that's awesome. Like
Well,
that's
if
badass.
Mortal Kombat was a WB company, HBO's WB,
Exactly,
and
exactly.
they got the rights for the show, so they're like, yeah, we'll add Mortal Kombat in. Don't worry about it.
And then I remember Ed Boon, who's like like the creator of Mortal Kombat or one of them, like he even said it, like he put out a tweet. It was just like, I can't believe it's like you guys actually got it in the fucking show or something like that. Like he was like so excited to see Mortal Kombat 2 in the Last of Us show.
That's awesome. Because they had like comic books in there and like referencing other things. A bunch. I
Yeah.
mean, they had a PlayStation 3 in there.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
it
funny
was fun.
because at this point, because the game happened, everything happened in 2013 where the world
Yeah.
ended, and the show was 10 years later, 2023.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so they have, if anything, they have PS5s when the
Yeah.
world ended in the show, but in the game they stopped at the PS3 cycle.
Yeah.
So it's like in the game, whenever you go around, the most advanced modern console at the time was the PlayStation 3. So I'm curious to see if they show a PS5 at any point in the show because they're 10 years after that.
Well, it wouldn't have been made.
The PlayStation 5 was made in 2020.
Yeah, but the virus started in
Oh,
2013,
I
right?
got the years wrong. So the 2003 is when the virus happened in the game. 2013 is when it happened in the show because
Okay.
they're now living in 2023. I got you. So they'll have PS4s.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's next after that?
David.
All right. So we got the. So did we have the Ellie's mom's backstory with the cannibals, or the cannibals were just by themselves? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it was David and the Cannibals. That was them, and then the finale is where you brought in Ellie's mom, played by
Right.
Ashley Johnson.
Right. Okay. All right. So the next up was the cannibals, and then so she meets this guy David, and she wants medicine. She killed this buck, and so David wants the deer because he has a lot of people to feed, and then she wants the deer because she needs to feed herself and Joel. But she trades most of the deer for medicine, for antibiotics for Joel. And there was like a standoff between her and then David's right hand man, who is none other than Troy
Troy
Baker,
Baker.
which was fantastic to see him in there. And I saw like this little interview of Troy Baker saying like it was great for Neil to put me in the show,
Thought he
and
was gonna be
then
like a clicker or some shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then he's like, and then he made me a cannibal, so I don't really know what that says about my relationship with Neil, which was hilarious. It, it was really funny, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that happens, and he does he's a phenomenal actor, both voice and
Oh
on
yeah, Troy
screen.
Baker's the
So
best. Yeah.
I didn't even recognize him at first. It took me a minute to like figure out it was him with
So
the makeup, and he was so pale, and like it was like he was just dirty, and yeah,
now, so fun fact, I'm gonna mention two real quick. So that was Troy Baker, the voice of Joel,
yeah,
who is David's partner, or helper or whatever. And then there was another person earlier on when you go back to Kansas City, where the Sam and Henry arc is happening. You have the right hand man who's like that big military dude with the
yeah.
beard. That's the voice of Tommy in the game.
Oh, the dude that gets his head ripped off.
Yes,
Oh shit!
that was Tommy.
Nice.
That's Tommy from the
That's
game.
beautiful.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
fun fact: there's two more people that played major roles in the game that show up later on in the show.
Oh, those I do know both of those.
Okay,
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that was Tommy, that big dude, the big dude who was just like the right hand man, military dude. He's like, we trust in you.
Yeah. So that that's great. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah,
But so that happens, and the whole cannibal arc happens, and it is so good to see that on screen and see the tension between the him, and they picked a perfect actor. Like all the casting was phenomenal. David was fantastic.
David was real good.
All the people in the town, and like what was really interesting, I was listening to these other people who saw the podcast, and they were talking about it on their podcast, and he was like, he brought up this point which I thought was interesting, and he was like, I think the people obviously knew that they were eating people. Like they made it seem like the townsfolk didn't really know, but I think deep down they kind of knew. And one of the reasons he says, and this could just be coincidence, and whatever. It's just like at that time it's snowing, and it's snowing a lot, right? And what happens when it's cold and it's snowing? The ground is very hard, so you can't really dig a grave. And when this girl's father died, right, in the show, she was like, "We need to bury him." And he was like, "We can't do that now." And like I felt like she was adamant, and he was saying this like he's like, "I think she knows,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't want to eat her own father."
Mm-hmm.
So she was trying to get them to bury him right away. And David was like, "No, it's like cold, it's snowing, the ground is hard, we're not going to be able to dig." And I thought that was like a very interesting little thing that they threw in there. Now I don't know if that's actually true, but you can definitely say that the townspeople could possibly know that they are
Oh yeah.
cannibals,
Yeah.
but they're not seeing it, they're not wary of it, and they're not asking questions.
Yeah. They're just trying to
Their
survive.
ignorance is bliss. You
They're
know what
Yeah.
I mean?
turning a blind eye. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was a great scene. You see her kind of like, please, just like let's bury him.
Yeah. It's like,
Like,
I don't want to eat
and
daddy. Like,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Eslam, real quick, I have an image where it's not this exact scene. I'm just gonna throw it in here if you want to
yeah.
share it. Not just here. I guess when we get to it, we can share it. But this is like one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. Just a little image. So
Okay.
I know we'll get to it in a second, but my thing, well, with this scene is where you have Ellie is like captured by
David.
David,
Yeah.
and she's like in the cage thing, and then she's in there, and then she kind of realizes, oh shit, you're eating people, because she sees, what is it? She sees a finger.
An
No, she
ear.
sees an ear. That's what it
Yeah.
is. She sees an ear in the floor. It's like, okay, they're a bunch of fucking cannibals. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And then she realizes, like, okay, this David guy has like much more interest than he should have in her.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like he doesn't want to eat her. He kind of wants to make her like another one of his followers, maybe even like his
He
partner or
wanted to have
whatever.
sex with her. Yeah.
He wanted
Exactly.
to marry her. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
He was trying to
Mate
marry
with
her.
her.
Yeah. He was trying
Yeah.
to make her like his, basically. And then she kind of like tries to lure him in,
Yeah.
and that picture there, that's where it is. It's like one of my favorite scenes in the entire thing, where it's like she pulls him in, breaks his finger, tries to get the thing, and then he's like, okay, let's go see what I tell the others now. And then she's just like, Ellie. She's like, what? He's like, tell him that the little girl who broke your fucking finger's name is Ellie. I
Yeah.
was like, God. And then like her emotion in that scene, I mean, you could see the picture there. It's just like, God damn, Bella Ramsey just did the damn thing in this show.
Oh, she was
She really
phenomenal.
did, especially this episode. One thing I
Yeah.
really liked is that I guess I low key was expecting Joel to come save her,
Yeah. But no, they
because
kept it just like a game, bro.
he was starting to get a little better, and they
Yeah.
showed him like making his way, trying to find. So I was like, oh, he's gonna come, probably do something, save her at a critical moment. But no,
Yep.
at the end of the day, she did the damn thing herself. She
Yep.
broke out herself. She did what she had to do,
Yeah, man.
and at the end, you see her get out and meet Joel, and but at that point, you see that she has been through the works, and she's
Yeah.
like emotionally scarred, and you see she doesn't want to talk,
That
and
moment changed Ellie for life.
Yeah.
Like
for
right there, that
real. So
moment changed her for life. And
So
they
I
did it
think
just
that
like in the game. Yeah,
so I
good.
think if I'm not mistaken, the difference in the game is that while she's stabbing the shit out of David, um, in the cabin, Joel comes in and stops her and takes her out, and
Because
he's
she
like,
wasn't gonna stop.
"Yeah," and that's
Exactly.
where he says like the baby girl. And
Yep.
in this, she stops, walks out of the cabin, and Joel finds her and
Yeah.
grabs her, and that's when he says like, "Baby girl, I'm here."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he last time he said that was when he was talking to Sarah,
Yep.
his daughter.
And again, another powerful moment.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, that episode was so crazy, and it was so goddamn good, man. And the way she killed Troy Baker was phenomenal. Fucking
It's funny
just
because I was like, I know
cleaver
Troy's not
to the
gonna make
neck.
it. I know
No,
Troy's not gonna make it to the end of this episode. How are they gonna do it? It's like
no,
Troy went out and just
none of
died
the
in
main
style.
characters that were in the show, their characters made it. Like they
Well,
all died.
one of them did.
Okay, yeah, one of them.
One
Yeah,
of them did.
in the finale. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Marlene.
no, no, she died.
Oh,
Marlene
you're
didn't
talking
make
about.
it.
Nah, she got
Oh
shot
yeah,
in the head.
she
Though.
did get shot at the end.
Yeah. No,
I
it
thought
was
she was gonna. I don't know why. I
it
thought
was
she was
one of
gonna
the
die
nurses.
in the beginning after she got shot. But
The
yeah,
other
okay.
character we're talking about was one of the nurses in the
Yeah.
finale. But all right, so the finale, phenomenal. We start off with the story of Ellie's birth,
Mm.
and that was such a good backstory. And phenomenal, and I love the little Easter egg they threw in there again in that backstory of
Hmm.
the farm, right?
Hmm.
So and then I love how they prefaced the farm earlier on when Joel was talking to Ellie. But
Yep.
there's one conversation we forgot to talk about.
Hmm.
And that's the conversation where Joel and Ellie that were having, where Joel told her that he tried to kill himself and that's why he
Hmm.
had the scar.
Hmm.
I feel like that was also that wasn't in the game. At least I don't think
No,
so.
you're right. You're right.
And that's another thing they added, that added a lot of depth to Joel. It's like, yeah,
Makes a
of
lot of
course,
sense too.
yeah, of course, he lost his daughter, everything went to shit, and he tried to obviously off himself. It's like, the one thing he loved the most he couldn't protect. So, and now he's like telling her, and I don't know, it was just like such an emotional like scene. Ah, so good. But let's get back to Ellie's mom. So Ellie's mom is like running away from a zombie, from an infected. She gets into this farm. She's like literally doing that while she's giving birth. And she's able to kill the zombie with the knife.
That was the
Obviously
craziest
Ellie's
birth
knife.
scene I
Yeah.
have ever seen. I was
Man,
like,
yo, what's up with HBO and their crazy birth scenes? Like they did this shit in Game of Thrones, and now here with HBO, they're like, yo, women are the shit, and then like, yeah, I don't know, it
it
was
was
phenomenal.
so
She
good
like
how they
fucking killed
did
a
it.
zombie and taking out a baby out of her vagina at the
From the
same time. That shit was
floor,
wild.
she
And then
fought off the
like,
zombie.
yeah,
Oh my god.
and then like Game of Thrones, she gave birth to like three kids, and then got up and went to the war room. I'm like, what is happening right
Yeah.
now? Like it's crazy,
Well,
but
House of the Dragon too. She had a baby. It was just like I'm gonna go take the baby with me. Like, and just
yeah,
start
yeah.
walking off. Like it's crazy.
What did I say?
You said Game of Thrones. I assumed it happened in Game of Thrones too.
Oh yeah, I meant House of the Dragon
Okay.
because that's Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Okay. No, I
Mhm.
understand. Yeah, I thought
Okay.
it happened twice.
Sorry.
My bad.
Um, I don't think there was a crazy birth scene in Game of Thrones.
I don't
I
know.
don't think so either.
Not like in House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
besides the
yeah,
point.
it
Fucking crazy. And then she got bit in the inner thigh.
was-
Marlene comes in, and so Ellie's born. Ellie's mom cuts the umbilical cord after she's been bitten,
Hmm.
and then she's holding the baby, waiting for someone to come, and Marlene comes.
And she's holding her with a knife in her neck, where she's like, the moment she feels like she's turning, she's just gonna
But
kill
she
herself
did
right there.
start turning because you can hear it in her
Oh yeah,
breathing. She was like, she did such a like it was so phenomenally done
yeah.
that she
And
was
which
like,
actress is this? Which actress is that
that was
did such an
Ellie's
amazing
voice
job?
actress. Ellie's voice actress, and you can tell.
Ashley
I mean, if you
motherfucking
played the
Johnson.
game,
Dude, I can't
her
hear
voice
her voice and not hear Ellie. I've been saying that for
exactly.
years. Anytime I saw Ashley Johnson do anything, I was like, oh, it's Ellie. It's just I
Yeah.
just hear Ellie.
As
it
soon
was
as I
so
heard it,
perfect
and
as
I was
she
just
was
like,
the
oh,
mother too.
Yeah, it was amazing that they made that decision.
and like she's starting to turn, she's starting to twitch a little bit, she's starting to do that like that sound that they
Yeah.
do, and it's just like I was like, my God. And then she's like, Marlene, you need to take her and you need to shoot me. You need
Hmm.
to like kill me. And she's
Hmm.
like, I can't. She takes out the baby. She puts the baby in one of the guards. She goes back in the room. Bang bang. And it's funny. So I was watching again this with Nadia, and then Nadia's like, no one's gonna cover the baby's ears. Like loud ass
It's fine.
gunshots are not gonna fuck up the baby's ears.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I was just like,
That's
okay,
such a crazy glimpse into that world,
yeah,
though, where like you might have to kill your best friend someday,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and she did it so callous. I mean, at first
I
she was
mean, she
like,
was
"No, I
having a hard
can't.
time.
No,
Yeah.
I can't." But then she was like, I gotta do this.
Yeah, this is for the
This
best.
is my best friend.
It's a mercy at that point. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And one
That
one
that
thing,
whole
yeah.
there's so much just humanity in this series. It's like it's just
It's crazy.
all these just weighing decisions that just
Wait
weigh so
until
much.
the next game where you lose faith in humanity.
Like, what do you think they're gonna do for Last of Us Part 3? Are you gonna have to just like punch yourself in the face over and over?
They
Just
might
like
send it. They're gonna give you the game and a rope. Like,
Jesus.
like I don't
Man,
know what. Like, it's just gonna be wild, bro.
What's called one thing I when you mentioned when she got bit in the thigh, that actually made me think of something where the very first episode they introduced something which I thought was genius, and it if you paid attention, it played a part throughout the entire series where so it's after the whole thing with Joel and Sarah passing away and all that, and then you move on and you see like that random kid
Hmm.
that walks into Boston and he's
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah.
And when the soldiers of Fedra they're testing him out, there's like a board on the wall where it just like
Yes. How many
shows the different
hours?
parts. Yes, how
Yeah.
many hours you have before you turn, and it's like they did such a good job where it's like you see that, and it's just like when you have Tess, she gets bit like right on the neck. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
she ain't got much longer to go.
No.
And then you look at Ellie's mom, whose name I can't remember right now, when she gets bit in the leg, it's like, all right, she has time
She
a
has like
little
at
bit.
least like 10 hours. Yeah.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
then you're thinking, but she was pregnant.
Yeah.
So then you have like how far does that matter? The distance between the bite and where like the baby, like does that come into play? We
Well,
don't know.
that's where they. Well, that's where now that they
That's
did that, that's why they think Ellie has that
Yeah,
that
immunity.
yeah, and we
explains the
never had an
origin of her.
explanation. Yeah, we
No,
never
and
had an
this
explanation.
explains it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which means if that becomes canon for the game as well, potentially there are other people.
Yeah.
It's not likely, but
No.
potentially it is a
But
possibility.
potentially, it's a. It could be recreated.
Yeah,
You could replicate that for I was just
Right.
gonna
If
say
it's
in an
if it's
experiment
the
kind of manner.
yeah.
if it's the virus plus the stem cells or the umbilical cord like
Mhm.
that does it so that the virus already thinks it's
Yeah.
this host is infected and doesn't need to react, then it's just like
And tell me something. Tell me it doesn't fit the Last of Us writing and the Last of Us lore where you have somebody who's just like, okay, I know how to cure it, but guys, it's fucked up.
yeah,
And then it's that thing. Is this person in the right? Because they're trying to
exactly.
save humanity, or are they fucked up because of what they're about to
Well,
do
then
to
let's
someone and
talk
a
about
child?
exactly. Well,
That's
then
crazy.
that brings up the finale.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
even
Yeah.
replicate it, you would have to find a mom willing to die. Like that in
Yeah.
itself is
You would have to
still
find a
just
mom who's willing to die. Might even have to start from scratch. You might have to be like, okay, you two have a baby. Either I'm going to force you to have sex or you're in love and I'm going to risk your baby's life along with your wife.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's fucked up. But no, Eslam, you're right. Finale.
But that brings us up to the big question of the finale, and it's one of the most important questions that this game kind of has to answer in its sequel, and it leaves you in a huge cliffhanger, right? So Joel gets obviously Ellie to the Fireflies. He meets Marlene.
Mhm.
They're like the doctors are prepping. They're gonna do the surgery. Blah blah
Mhm.
blah.
Also, real quick, giraffe scene happens. I
Yes,
love it.
which was great.
Fucking
Also,
love
a
just
it.
like
real
the game
giraffe.
too. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, also one of the giraffe that they interacted with a real giraffe,
Yeah.
which I
And
thought it was completely CGI.
me too. I did too.
Yeah,
And that's the moment where you see, you have the conversation between Joel and Ellie, where Ellie at this point she's just like, she's just like everything happened with David. She's just a shell of herself.
yeah,
And then she climbs up this thing, and just like the game where she's running around, I was like, Joel. He's like, what's happening? He's like, Joel, come here, come here. I was like, and you playing the game, you're running around like, fuck. I just went through everything. What am I gonna
yeah,
deal with now? Then you turn around and she's just playing with the giraffe. Like, man,
yeah,
that's the fucking sweetest thing. And then he has the conversation with her where he's like, let's just go back. Let's fuck it. We don't need to do this. Let's just go back. And then
yeah,
she turns to him and she's just like, we can't go back. Well, if that's the case, we did all this for nothing.
yeah.
And like that right there, that
And then it's kind
conversation
of like
is where,
Tess died for nothing.
yeah,
Like anybody who helped us and died
yeah, it was all for
it was
nothing.
for
It's
nothing.
like we have to follow through with this.
Yeah,
Yep.
All
and
that killing she did too. Oh,
yeah.
man.
So yeah, so Joel finds out that she needs to die for this to work, and he's just like, yeah,
Yeah, that ain't
he's like,
happening.
I'm not gonna let this happen. She's like, you don't have a choice. Tells the
He's
guards
like,
to
find
take him,
another one.
take the guards to take him out to the outskirts, give him his backpack, send him, and if he fights, shoot him. And then Joel turns into John Wick and fucking murders the entire hospital. Gets into the room, gets into the surgery room, um, and like I don't want to ruin the second game, but I just love how it was like perfectly like the first game where he just nonchalantly just kills the doctor
Just
and
walks
like it
in.
it doesn't even matter like
I'm not gonna let you do this. Boom.
yeah, and it's
Done.
just like
Without a thought, it was just
yeah,
so.
it's like and for us who
You're
like,
playing the game. It's like it's okay. That just
yeah,
happened.
it's just a fucking whatever.
It
And so
seems so like nothing. Well, not like somebody died, but like it was just
Yeah.
such a
So many other
quick,
people died.
yeah,
Why would this one
exactly.
matter?
thought that
Yeah.
like it makes you really think. It
Yeah.
really does.
So So that happens. He threatens the nurses. One of them being one of the protagonists in the second game, the
Yep.
voice actress, um,
Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey,
Yep.
who got a lot of death threats. Fucking-
I'm still pissed about that. Like Laura Bailey was
you and me
pregnant
both.
after the filming of after the making of Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah,
People wished death upon her unborn baby
that's wild.
because of that game.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
people are
too far.
monsters.
Like,
Yeah. Hey, she's good at her fucking job.
She really is. She was fucking phenomenal.
Yep.
Listen, we
Hell,
love all the voice actors from The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. You guys were
absolutely.
phenomenal. It
Absolutely.
was great seeing you in The Last of Us show. But yeah, so that happens. He takes her, walks out. Marlene meets him in the parking lot, shoots her in the stomach, then, puts Ellie in the car, shoots her in the head, driving like nothing happened. Ellie asks him, he's like, nah, they said what you have doesn't work. Like they
Yeah.
have more people like you and whatever. And you see it in her face. She's like,
She knows.
she's
She
like, I
fucking
don't really
knows.
believe what you're saying. And they finally make it back to Jackson, and then they have that conversation that they had in the game, one of the most important conversations for their future relationship. And she asks him, like, she's like, tell me the truth. Like, was there a chance? And he was just like, no. And he just says no.
And
And then it just goes black.
yeah. Well,
And
one thing I remember them doing in the game at least is when he says no, you're looking at Ellie.
mhm.
And then it's like you see in her face,
Yes,
she's just like she looks at him
she
and
doesn't
then
believe it.
she
Yeah,
she
knows, but
doesn't.
she can't call him out in his shit, and she
no,
just looks at him. She's like, okay,
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
all
It
she says, just okay.
it was just like the game too. It had that
Yeah.
same energy,
Yeah,
same vibe. Just like she
And Bella
knows
Ramsey,
something's
my
up. But
God, you can tell from her facial expressions that she didn't believe him.
yeah,
And that was what was phenomenal for me. Like these
mhm.
actors, and just like how, fuck, man, they were so good,
Yeah.
so
And that's
good.
the thing. It's like those big moments where it's like we touched on a couple of them with Ellie with that moment, and Ellie when she's killing David and being rescued,
Hmm.
Joel when he's holding Sarah and she's dying, and Sarah herself when she's dying. These are all moments that are like ingrained in my brain from the game because in
Yeah,
the game the actors did such an amazing, phenomenal job. It's like you can't forget that. So it's like ingrained in my memory for as long as I live. I'm gonna remember those scenes. And then when I watch the show and to see these new actors portray it the same exact way, it's
yeah,
like fuck. It's like I see new Sarah and new Joel acting exactly the same way they did in the game, and it hits just as hard. You have Ellie going through her stuff, and it looks exactly like it did in the game, and it just hits so hard. I was like, damn, like every actor, game, show, whatever, like they fucking killed it, man.
yeah. It was great. And
I
and and for people who are waiting for season two or can't wait for season two and are gonna decide to play the games, that last scene is very important because it literally sets up the relationship between Ellie and Joel in the second
Mm,
game, and that hospital
mm,
scene sets up the entire story of the second game.
yeah.
So very important thing. It seemed like it was nothing
Hmm.
in the show and in the game too. It was just him rescuing her. None of it ultimately mattered
Yeah.
anymore. And then the genius of Neil Druckmann and his writers and his team just like made it one of the most important events to
Hmm.
happen in these people's lives.
Nope.
And I can't wait. I
Wait,
can't
wait
wait.
till you get to Last of Us Part 3, and then it's just like remember that guy who stabbed Joel outside the college at the university?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the president of the world.
Yeah.
this
Just
is a plot
something random. I
twist.
was like, oh my god, he was important too.
Well, that was that girl's dad that they ate later. So
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
yeah,
That's
he
true.
ain't coming back.
She was the first daughter of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the people of David's
Mm.
uh cannibal camp is gonna come back. Who knows?
What if Troy Baker's son grew up to become their version of Batman?
That'd
As
be
long as he
crazy.
has the same voice, I'm good. Um, all right,
Where
final
is
thoughts
she?
about this Last of Us adaptation.
I got you.
Um,
You want to go or you want me to go?
no,
I
you
guess
go
I'm going.
first.
I guess I'm going
You
first.
go. Yeah.
No, one thing I just want to say real quick. The whole time we were leading up to the show, I was just like, cautiously optimistic. I was like, I hope it hits well.
Hmm.
I don't want to see games adapted into shows. this show happened, and I feel the exact same fucking way. I don't want to see games adapted into shows. I
Yeah.
don't want that. But this is the exception. This
Yeah.
is the one where it's just like they did an amazing job. They did phenomenal. Maybe I'm willing to give more shows a chance because of that, but that doesn't change the fact that I still don't want that. I feel like we're not there yet.
I'll give
We're
him a
getting there,
chance
but
if
we're
it's on
not there yet.
HBO.
See, I can't say that because you
I
know how I feel
can
about HBO.
because their track record's amazing, and you may not feel the same way about the
Yeah.
rest of the HBO
Yeah, they're
shows,
like a
but
50-50 for me.
like True Detectives were phenomenal. Like a lot of the shows on HBO, like Game of Thrones for the most part, up until the last two seasons. You know, obviously House of Dragons was phenomenal. Succession, like they just have
I do want to
hits.
watch Succession.
And it's ending like right, so I'm just gonna wait until that last season comes out, and I'll just enjoy it slowly later. But uh, their track record with their writing and their attention to detail, and they know how to tell a good story, and they know how to tell an interesting story with their characters and get you involved. And I feel that's why they've been successful as long as they have, and they can take these adaptations, and they're smart enough to be like, Neil Druckmann, you need to be a big part of this. And they're like, oh, this is similar to Chernobyl, so let's get that director. And they're able to not get in their own way, and pick the right people for the job, and
That makes smart
then
decisions.
let
Yeah.
them do their thing,
Mhm.
create their art, and
Mhm.
it shows. So I will give any other show adaptation on HBO a chance before any other platform. You know what I mean? So
I agree. I agree totally with that. HBO just shits on everybody else, in my opinion. Not
yeah,
that
no,
other streamers don't have good stuff, because they
no, they
all have
do.
their
Yeah.
occasional gem. But like you said, I think HBO is just a little more consistent with
Hmm.
the writing and just the overall quality.
Yeah.
Uh, Peacemaker, Euphoria, they got so many
Oh yeah,
shows. His
man. Yeah.
Dark Material, so
Yep.
many
Mhm.
really good bangers. But my final thoughts, I want to say, um, I absolutely love the show. And granted, I played the I don't
No.
know what that was. Oh,
Yeah.
granted, some people that play the game, they're very purist and they're like, oh, the show, they made too many changes. But honestly, I really did like the changes. I did, and I see why they did the changes. But I guess I also was attached to just the gameplay, and I love the zombie aspect of the game, which is really not the main focus. But in my opinion, I like to see the different interactions, because that's what made some of the quality terrifying moments for me. Like, granted, the storyline and the people and their motives are pretty scary in general too. But I do like that jump factor, and the dark settings, and then having to physically be there. So I guess what my main point is to play the game, but also watch the show,
Agree.
because they're both going to convey different interactions with the
Hmm.
characters. And
Hmm.
the game, I feel like you're gonna feel like you're that character and you're bonding in that way, like if you're them. But the show gives you just so much more juicier background and depth, and uh, just a lot of Easter eggs that the game doesn't give you, or if it does give it to you, it's kind of like not in the easiest
Mhm.
uh, execution.
If you're
But
really going in there and exploring everything in the game, and if you go watch the show, you're gonna like what you see.
Hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I totally recommend both. Don't sleep on either. They're quality experiences. Um, but yeah, kudos to them. I want to see if Bella Ramsey stays for season two, because there is a little time gap. Spoilers. So I'm
Based from what I've heard, I think she is. Because they
Yeah.
interviewed her, and she was one of the people who said that she thinks it's late 2024, maybe early 2025 when they get to season two.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I
okay,
think
yeah.
I also heard something about Neil Druckmann saying the only way we would recast if Bella Ramsey doesn't want to be Ellie anymore.
Mm,
Um,
nice. Okay.
I don't know
Yeah,
how true that statement is, but I've seen it somewhere. So,
Yeah.
um,
she did such a good job that I think this would be a hard one to recast, and
no.
keep like those same vibes. Like yeah, The Witcher, they could do that shit. The Witcher really wasn't even too
How
crazy a
old
good
is she,
show.
by the way?
I
Does
think she's
anybody
Bella
like
know?
20
Ramsey.
something.
Oh, okay. So
Uh,
she's like done growing. Okay.
Bella Ramsey's like
yeah,
20 something.
It makes
Let me look it
sense
up.
because like
She,
HBO, like Game of Thrones was a while back.
she's 19 apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
So
that's
she's pretty
crazy. That
much
just
done
blew my
growing.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think
Yeah. So
whatever.
that's my
It
final
is what
thoughts.
it is.
Play it. Watch the game. Play it and watch the game. Play the game and watch the show. You're definitely gonna love it, especially Nick
If you could play the
Offerman.
show, then do that.
The interactive new
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah, for real.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Just check out the game. Everything it has to offer is quality content. Naughty Dog did an amazing job.
Um, yeah. Well, I've said it all already. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna. I'm
You
just
could
gonna
give somebody a birthday shout out.
that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna do. I was
All right.
just like, I agree with both what Dan and Dan said. I would reiterate everything they said. So I'm
Mm.
gonna save you that time. Happy birthday, Henry.
He's
And
19.
yes, and thank yeah, he's 19 also.
Yeah, it's not Bella Ramsey. It's him. That's why he said 19.
Yeah. Um. All right. So I got some news to share with you guys, so we can just jump into that. And all right. So The Last of Us creators confirmed Part Two will be more than one TV season. So yeah. So I said two, so that's technically
Yeah.
not the same as more than one. So they could be three, could be whatever, depending on how they write it and how many episodes each season is. So
So I think they're so I think season 2 is going to be split into a couple, and by the time season 2 comes out, maybe we'll already be playing or be close to playing part 3.
all right. I mean, I think I have a All right, so no, I thought some other thing where they were saying that they Naughty Dog chose their next game and it might not be The Last of Us Part
Yeah,
Three.
well, it's like a 90% chance it's not Last of Us 3. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
still, like within the if you look at the time frame, they still have to make Last of Us factions
yeah,
and everything. So I think by the time they get to Last of Us 3, I think the show will be caught up
oh okay. If it's
basically.
more than one season, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hopefully, yeah, that would
yeah,
be
I'm pretty
great
sure the show will be ready.
because it takes about a year and a half to 2 years to make the season.
And it takes a
Um,
long time for the game, you know.
yeah, I know. So I'm
Yeah.
saying like if it takes a year and a half, let's say 2 years to make the season, right? Because we're in 2023, the season just ended. They're
Mhm.
saying 2025.
Yeah.
Late, so that's like a year and a half to almost 2 years if it's towards the end.
Yeah.
Let's say, just for easy math too, if they do 3 seasons for the second game, that's 6 years. That could be
Yeah.
enough time for the game to come
Well,
out.
think
But
about it. Like, so Last of Us 2 came out in 2020,
hmm
and then they're making Last of Us Factions,
yeah,
which Last of Us Factions is not Last of Us Part 3.
no, it's not.
So who's to say that that's not the next game they're making? So if that's the
But that's a
case,
multiplayer game, correct?
as far as we know, well, I mean, it's not even called Factions. That's just what we're calling it because that's the only thing
Ah,
we know of it as.
okay,
It could
okay.
very well be the next game. It's set in the Last of Us universe, but it's
But,
technically not Last of Us Part 3.
I
You know what
get
I'm
what you
saying?
mean. So that could also add to more seasons of the show.
Exactly.
That makes more sense.
And
Okay,
then at
okay.
that point, yeah. And Henry, I see what you're talking about. End of PS5, we'll get Part 3. I don't even think so. I mean, well, actually, end of PS4, yeah, because that's what they do. So PlayStation 3 got Last of Us 1, PlayStation 4 got Last of Us 2. So yeah, end of PS5. But PS5 came out in 2020. It's going to be
hmm
done by 2027, 2028.
Yeah.
That's when the PS5 is going to be
And
done.
and we're hearing rumors about a PS5 Slim and Pro
Oh yeah,
for either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So uh, pretty much the middle of the cycle. So
yeah.
yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Game developers tribute to wife makes it into the HBO The Last of Us. So I guess there was a tribute to one of the developers' wives in the game,
Hmm.
and then they added it into the show, which I thought
Nice.
was like really
That's pretty
great.
cool.
Yeah. Um, I like when they do shit like that. Yeah, so here's fans will hear much more about the Last of Us multiplayer game this year. That
Via
could
kind of funny.
yeah. So that yeah, via kind of funny. Yeah,
Because they interviewed, I know this whole story. So they had
yeah,
Neil Druckmann on their podcast, and they
nice.
talked about it because they were like, "When's Last of Us Faction?" He's just like, "Well, it's not called Last of Us Factions, but you're gonna
hmm
hear more about the multiplayer this year."
Yeah, nice. Um, all right. So, um, a while back we had some bad news about Batman Cape Crusader series, which was being created by the creators of Batman the animated series. that was supposed to come out on HBO Max. And once the merger happened, it was scrapped,
Hmm.
which was very disappointing for me because I was very much looking forward to this new animated series. But the Cape Crusader series finds new life at Amazon after being scrapped by HBO Max. Now, that is a double-edged sword. With Amazon, they have the budget, so they can, if they want to pour in money, they'll pour in money to this.
Hmm.
The other thing is, it's Amazon. They don't have the best track record,
They could
so
do really, really good though.
they could if they
They
just
could also
bring
do really,
everybody
really
that
bad.
if they bring in over everybody that was working on this show and keep it as it was, then I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll be great.
Yeah.
But if not, and they start doing their Amazon thing and um, pull the bullshit they did with Lord of the Rings, then we're gonna have an issue.
But hey, people enjoy The Boys. I thought Invincible was phenomenal.
Invincible was great. The Boys was great. Wheel of Time was good. Like they have a lot of good shows. Like
Vox Machina.
Paper Girls was good.
Paper Girls, yeah.
Vox Machina is fantastic. So they have a lot of great shows. It's just they dropped the ball with one of the biggest IPs ever created, and uh, it's just like I get a little scared for one of my favorite character of all time.
Oh yeah.
So you know what I mean. But hey,
Some would
we'll
say
see what
he
happens.
might. Some say he might make your Mount Rushmore of everything.
Hey, he could. He could. He could definitely be there. So James Gunn announced that he will be directing the next Superman movie that
That's
he
not a
is
surprise.
also currently writing. It is not a surprise, and it is a surprise. I don't know how I feel about this 100%, but we'll see what happens. I don't know what kind of Superman story he's writing.
Hmm.
He mentioned a little bit about it, but I'm sure if he's writing a more serious story, um, then it'll be a more
Yeah.
serious movie and not just be kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy or the
Suicide
uh,
Squad.
Suicide Squad or
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. Thank you, Dan. It's the end of the episode. You know how
No,
I
I
do.
got you. That's what I'm here for. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I thought this was like already unofficially a thing.
I guess it was, but like maybe they were looking for someone, and
Yeah.
then he was like, maybe I should just do it.
Yeah.
And and I guess they were just like, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling too that since he was writing it, he was gonna direct it.
Yeah.
But then I was just like maybe, but whatever, we'll see. Superman Legacy, directed by James Gunn. All right, Good Burger 2 officially announced. For those of you who loved the original Good Burger,
Damn. I thought
you
you
will
were gonna
be
say
getting
for those of you who loved orange soda. Damn. Damn.
um, you will be
Missed
getting
opportunity.
yeah, I guess. Sorry. You'll be getting a sequel to this great movie with Keenan and I forget his name, but
No, fuck you.
well, no,
How?
is his actual name Kale though?
His name's Kel.
Kel?
He
This
said
man
Keenan,
said
Kale.
Kale. This
Keenan
man
and Kel.
said
That's how
Kale.
you
That's not
pronounce
get the
it.
fuck off the podcast.
I'm
He
tired.
said Kale. I can't. I just picture like green.
But
I don't know.
This man really
but
said
that's his
Kale.
actual name, right? Like
Keenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell are their names.
okay, Kel. Okay, thank you.
Man said Kale.
Whatever.
Beautiful.
This movie's coming out.
The nostalgia. Oh
Yeah.
man, you just
Oh,
made my
man.
day. That was
I just
great.
thought now you got me thinking about the Coolio song where he's rapping about Keenan and Kale now.
Whatever. That's how I've heard it. E3 2023. Is it still going to happen?
Fuck no. Look at Mario. He's in the middle saying no right now.
Exactly. Because we just got some more news today. So, Ubisoft has announced that they will not be coming to E3.
I talked about this shit on the podcast.
last week?
No, this was a while ago. So
Oh.
we talked about E3. You brought it up as one of your news stories.
Yeah, but I think there was another one that got announced today also. One second. Let me
Yeah,
just
Embracer
finish.
Group. Embracer
Yeah.
Group isn't going.
And then Sega also backs out of E3, which concerns for the show's future. So with the addition of these two, earlier this year, PlayStation said they will not be there. Obviously, the
Oh yeah,
PlayStation hasn't been there for a while.
they don't need it.
Nintendo also announced that they will not be at E3. Microsoft, who also owns Bethesda as well, will not be at E3. Xbox will not be at E3, which is not a surprise if Microsoft is not there. And then, now you got Ubisoft and Sega. So honestly, who the fuck's left to be at E3?
Square
Uh,
Enix, who they don't even do stuff every year.
exactly. And then the rest of the indies, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like indies
So
would be there if it happens. Yeah,
yeah, so they're still, I guess they're still having like their physical gathering, but at this point, like, they're probably like, what the fuck's the point? You know what I
yeah.
mean? Is
Why is everyone backing out? Because advertising's so easy now, or
Well, yeah. So basically, before COVID hit, like PlayStation was like the big one. Who it's like everybody go to E3 to watch. Like they would be the last day before the official start to watch their conference and watch what games are coming out because they came out with the bangers. And then one year they were just like, you know what, we're not going to be there. Like we could kind of just show our own thing. Why do we need the
yeah,
E3 name? So they left, and then COVID happened, and the E3 was like, we can't do E3 because it's COVID. So all the studios were just like, well, let's try to just show our own stuff, and it was a mess. And then Jeff
yeah,
Keighley, the guy who runs the Game Awards, is like, what if I come up with something called Key 3? And like, you can't say that, we'll sue you. He's like, what if I came up with something called Summer Game Fest? And I just had everybody show their stuff on my thing, and Summer Game Fest has been growing, which we've talked about on the podcast multiple times. And E3 keeps on trying to come back, and it's just like nobody wants to be there because it's like,
yeah.
why do we need to? Like at this point, we could just partner with Jeff Keighley, where he doesn't own our shit. He'll just be like,
No,
hey, yeah, look at our thing, that watch their stuff, and it's hosted by us or whatever, so they could do their own thing. But a while ago, we talked on here where Ubisoft. I think you said that Ubisoft mentioned that they were gonna be part of E3, and I remember saying I was like, yeah, but Yves Guillemot, the guy who runs it, also said he said specifically, if E3 is happening, we're gonna be there. And then
oh,
I was just like, okay. And I was just like, that's why did he word it like that? Because
yeah,
nobody thinks it's happening. And now, yesterday, they announced Ubisoft isn't going to be there. Today, they announced Sega, and I think Abrasive Group is going to be there. And Eslam, I don't know if you got this too. The guy who's the head of ReedPop, who's hosting E3,
hmm,
is looking to retire very soon. So
damn,
he's going to be leaving. This man works there. It's just like, I'm
yeah,
out too.
yeah. Uh, yeah, no. So I think it's safe to say E3 is gonna be done. Summer
Might
Games
just
at
have
Fest
to.
makes
E3.
some Summer Games Fest makes sense. It's online. You don't need to go anywhere. It's just like the access for everybody is just super easy and convenient. And E3, yes, they gave you their stuff online too, but it's just not the same. And
Yeah,
these companies, like Dan said before, they can just make a little showcase and throw it up on YouTube, and they'll have millions and millions of views
exactly. E3 was about
within
like,
hours.
yeah, E3
So
was originally about people who worked in the industry
yeah,
going to it
yeah,
and experiencing each other's games, going to press conference. Became a bigger thing. Then they opened it up to the public to try to gain revenue. And now it's just like it's only a matter of time before Summer Game Fest does the same thing. Like they already have people come in and look at their games, but they don't. I don't think they're open to the public. If they
yeah,
are, I'm not sure of it. But they're just gonna take that spot
yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeff Keighley's also like huge in gaming industry, so I'm sure he can find a way to make it work
Yeah,
and not end up failing like E3. But
yeah. I'm gonna
this
miss
is what
E3.
this is what happens, if
Yeah,
your product is not as good and someone comes and makes it better and more efficient, and it's gonna win. So that's what happens.
Business is business.
Exactly. That's what's great about capitalism. All right, let's move on. Disco. You want to jump into your review real
Yeah,
quick?
I got a quick little review here. Let me just share this feature. There we go. Boom. All right, let's see. Y'all see that Carnival Row final
Mhm.
season?
Yeah.
Orlando
Okay.
Bloom.
Yeah, it is Orlando Bloom. Good
Man
eye.
still acts.
He does still act. Legolas moved on.
Yeah.
What can I say about this show? This is the final season. They wrapped it up, and I guess if I had to put it in one word, I would see or two words. Very, very mid. It was a very
Damn.
mid show. I felt like it had a lot of potential, but for some reason, it just didn't hit me the way I thought it was. Because I like the idea of fairies and pixies and having all these like kind of half human creatures, and it was kind of cool at first to see like almost their form of racism. It's like they get looked down upon or
Hmm.
separated, segregated, and so I thought that was cool. But it didn't do too much for me. Uh, and this final season, especially, they kind of have a hitch in their relationship, and the Orlando Bloom, the slight spoilers, kind of has like internal battles where uh, because he's Critch, but they took off his wings. He's like a fairy, but they took off his wings, so he's practically human now. But still, everybody sees him as a fairy at a certain point when it comes out. And so he goes through a lot of that, and it kind of separates him from Cara Delevingne's character, who he is dating. Honestly, the best part about this show is there's this creature called a Spara, and I want to see more of that. That creature needs a spin-off show. It's like this crazy skull thing, and its chest cavity opens up into a mouth, and it has like mouths on its arms, and it literally like hugs you and then eats you, and it's like the craziest looking nimble demon creature. And honestly, that is what kept me throughout the whole season. I was like, I want more of the Sparrow. Um, and they gave a healthy dose of the Sparrow, so that's that. It was a pretty decent last season. A lot of climactic ending of storylines and plots and people dying and things, people growing apart and new romances forming. So I mean, it has a lot of stuff going on, and maybe it's your cup of tea, maybe it's your not, but overall, I'll give it a one thumbs up, not two, as I'm not gonna highly recommend it to everybody. I think it's very much a hit or miss show, and so check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. Maybe you'll catch things that I didn't, and uh, you know, maybe you'll fall in love with this universe because it is pretty. It has a lot of potential. It definitely does, but I think the execution kind of was a little lackluster, and that's what I have to say about Carnival Row. It was just lacking in something. I can't quite put my finger on it. Like it just didn't blow me away. Like I like Legolas from Legolas. I like Orlando Bloom from when he played Legolas. He kind of like always stuck in. I always know his name from that. So I kind of like. And Carol Devine has a lot of movies under her belt too, and she's very attractive and very talented. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be a great show, and it kind of just didn't do it for me. But it wasn't like the worst show ever. So I don't know. I'm kind of in between with this one. Very mid, very mid. So check it out. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. That's my final thoughts on Carnival Road. Check it out. Very mid. One thumbs up.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, that is the end of our show. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to us review The Last of Us on HBO Max. And hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. If you did, go play the game if you haven't played it already. If you have played the game, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. But with that said, don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps us grow our channel. Comment below. Let us know what you think. Share the video. Go check out our social medias. And then, last but not least, the Los Wise Guys website, loswiseguys.com. New content going up all the time. And we love you too, Henry. Thank you for tuning in and have a great week.
We love you.
Yeah, I just said that, Henry. We love
He
you.
didn't know, no, because
Yeah.
the time there's the
Yeah, he
lag.
needs
Yeah.
extra
I'm
assurance.
sure, yeah.
We all love you.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Did you move your
Um,
TV, Dan?
No, no, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I'm about to break in.
No, you good.
all right. Well, Twitch. See you guys later.